right. And we are live. Lord Cognito, Lord King David, Iron Lord Podcast, lordsofgaming.net. And who are these fine people in the realm of New York City today?
I'm Jasmin Roy, game director on South of Midnight.
And I'm Whitney Clayton, art director on South of Midnight.
Compulsion Games in the building. Again, absolute pleasure to be here. We got to get right to it. South of Midnight, we got our chance to play.
This is incredible.
This is incredible. We loved what we played as far as the gameplay. One thing I want to get right to it, because I talked to you, Jasmine, as soon as I finished my session. One thing that really impressed me was the actual platforming in the game.
Yeah.
Hazel running around, being a weaver, but also wall running, gliding, and then the combat. So I want to get into the actual design of the game from a platform and combat perspective. What was the vision on the pure gameplay side?
Yeah, so, it all started with basically, that picture you saw on the wall. There was like the whole story, kind of drawn out. I usually say, you're doing a modern folktale. It's hard to do a folktale without the tale. So we knew what kind of framing we wanted, kind of a short story with a 10 to 12 hours, game with a narrative that had like lots of momentum and everything. Wanted to make sure, Hazel goes on this journey where she's going to, her mom gets swept away. She's running after her. So there's a lot of momentum, the pacing needs to go forward. And you need to kind of, get on that quest. What are you going to do? How are you going to go and, go about, looking for your mother. So that was one of the first thing, the framing of how long the game should be. And then on top of that, there was already the idea of Hazel utilizing these objects that she finds along the way. That's going to be inspired by the traditional art of, weaving. Okay, so she has a distaff, spindle, hooks, and everything. And since it was a folktale, we also decided to make it really about magic. So infusing these objects with magic. So when we started investigating that, we were like, okay, so these are all the ideas that we have, right? High-level ideas. How do we break it down into, gameplay aspect, gameplay features? And when you start thinking about, it's magical strands, a magical fabric, something that you can pull on, what can you do with that? And we started playing with the idea of moving objects with it, being able to kind of, get about interacting with the world and the magical elements of the setting by using, a pull ability, being able to kind of, push objects back.
Mm-hmm. Did that come from the lore of spiders when it comes to the Deep South? As far as the weaving, because I do understand that they feel like everything is connected in some form or fashion. And I've noticed like in certain objects, it was like in a little web.
Any spider references is what we're trying to say.
There are spider references in the game, but I wouldn't say that the weaving specifically came from that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't specifically from spiders, but I think there was a natural, because we do bring in that theme at some point, there is some natural sort of like combination of the two. Yeah.
And from then on, using all of these powers, being able to kind of like, construct object through the fabrics, she kind of see the world beyond and being able to kind of, conjure objects and everything. That's basically the game design. And from there, we started looking at, the art, the world, the way all of these environments will be built, as like maquettes, right? We started looking at, the elevation and everything. We're like, it would be interesting to kind of, use the magic to move around, start jumping, navigating everywhere. So we kind of built it based on very organic process with art and game design and level design all working together. We used to have a traversal system that was just a little bit more accelerated, a little bit more fast. Gotcha. Like we played with a couple of different versions, but at one point we were losing kind of, the world, the journey. Yeah. So we kind of reeled it back in. Gotcha. So when you look at it, it's like the scale of the environment that we were building, and they really combined well with that platforming element. And we infused all the platforming element with the same treatment of magical textile, weaving fabric that we're using. Like you can see her jump on when she does the double jump, you can see under her feet that she's kind of jumping on these magical strands, right? Yes. And then same thing when she does a wall run,
which I love.
Yeah, she's kind of using her hooks, and so it's all these these different elements that came together, to create the platforming that you're going to get to play. And we also paid a strong attention to making sure every department, from the music, cinematics, game design, game sequences, art, that we really built all chapters to kind of take you on this journey, right? And you go through that journey from the very normal kind of a mundane environment up until the magical, right? As you progress through the game, it's the normal world, and it gets even more magical as you progress through each region and each chapter. So there's that notion of pacing, to be able to kind of say, oh, this is the motivation right now, a little bit of platforming. And then you go into contemplative exploration, and then a bit of combat and everything. For combat, it was the same process. We wanted to have a combat that was based around the Aints, evil spirit that haunts a place. You're gonna need to help me with that one. The haunting.
Yep.
So they basically trap you in, and we wanted to make sure that Hazel in all of her platforming and combat really felt agile. So this is why we focus on dodging and using the hooks to kind of attack them, use the spells in combat to make the magical element of the setting comes in. Again, all based on the fabric, having kind of
the pull and the push.
the pull, and being able to ensnare them in the weave ability. That's kind of
I like the cool down process. It gives you a level of anxiety while you're watching the cool down, and you're moving at the same time and dodging until you can get to your move set. I love the combination of the two, because you use timing, you use accelerated angst, and sometimes the arena gets smaller, so you have to be a little bit more frugal with the way you use your powers. If you can group them together, you can use your powers. Was that something that you consciously thought about when you was putting the arenas together, in which you actually liked?
So basically there was that element of the size of the arena, but also the composition of enemies. Our Aints archetype are built differently from one another, so they kind of combine as you attack them, and they change a little bit the dynamics. And on the Unravel, the idea was that there was always going to be a little bit of technicality. How can I say about the Unravel is the idea that you have a way to know how you're good at the game, right? Because you're going to use your powers and you want to get them back. You unravel, or Unravel also gives you a little bit of health. Right. So as you start playing, you're going to see your health go down. It comes back up again, and it kind of gives you an idea of I fared better this time because I didn't have to use the healing, or this combat I struggled a little bit more because
that was me in the beginning.
So,
Once I got the pacing and then realized, okay, dodge more. Then obviously with the targeting of the enemies, but the thing that I realized the push and the pull actually defensively with the push, when projectiles were coming at me and stuff like that. And then when I finally start to get the dance of it, I started to unravel, get my health back, and then it started to make sense. So it's just like a little learning curve at first, but I understand what you're saying. Like it feels rewarding once you start mastering.
It's a good way of explaining it. So we wanted to have all of that, but also keep things accessible, which is why we have like different difficulty options. You can make it harder, easier. That's pretty much a rundown of everything that I could include in the mechanics of it.
All right, and Whitney. All right, so I'm a huge visualization guy, and the art style is striking. I mean, from the thought process into stop animation to the shadows to the HDR that is being used. I wanted to know what went into that process, because the texture feels so rich. What was your thought process when you started this?
Well, how far back are you talking? Like the coming up with the worlds part, or the crafting of everything, or
wherever you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think the team. First of all, we have a really talented art team for sure. Really talented, super passionate art team, super talented lighting artist. We spent a lot of time in early pre-production figuring out what the world is going to be, what makes the world meaningful, what are the different thematic elements that are, when I say thematic, it sounds very narrative focused, but it's what makes this world memorable, and what makes it something that you feel like you've kind of been there before in a way, but it's heightened and it takes you by the hand and wants to pull you in, and there's something around the corner. So there's all this thought on that side in terms of constructing what is the actual content of the world going to be, and like, you know, how magical is it going to be? What's the tone of the magic? What's the tone of the creatures? What's the mood? What are the, you know, what are the architectural styles? What are the signage that, you know, has all of these references where, you know, you always have to heighten things and pick the things that, like, that's part of my job, is picking what I think is iconic and memorable, and not just copying it, but reinterpret and elevating it. Because in games, things do tend to kind of get, it's easy for things to get kind of like lost a bit. Yeah. So you kind of have to elevate everything to really push that atmosphere. And we were really lucky with this game in that we decided to do something really crafted, which comes with its own challenges. But from an art perspective, it's a dream because we get to curate every bit of it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was really special, and the artists just did an incredible job with that. And then on the stop motion side, that's where, you know, from my team, they just poured a lot of love into, you know, learning how maquettes are made, seeing the types of things we need to make, whether it's architecture kits or foliage or flowers or rocks or, you know, old antique chairs or old antique grandfather clocks, or, you know, eccentric characters that are designed with narrative, or creatures that are designed with gameplay. And then putting a lot of love and thought into crafting that and reverse engineering how a maquette would be made in real life, and then putting that technique onto the 3D model.
I'm a huge fan of Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, so are we.
And I noticed a little bit of reference to it in some aspects of it, as far as the weaving and the magic and the, like you said, looking around the corner. Like, is this something around that corner? And I found myself doing that a lot while I was playing the game. Did you feel that you achieved your thought process in getting to that homage to something like that?
I'm proud of where we ended up. I think just the fact that we had the benefit of having the time to put the craftsmanship in allowed us to do that. But for sure, we like what I love about Pan's Labyrinth is that combination of fairy tale meets something dark, but in a way that's very alluring, that has a sense of mystery. And I think that's exciting, and we wanted to definitely try to get that both in the creature design, because Guillermo del Toro does an incredible job with really interesting original creatures. So we were very inspired by that. And then also just with the shapes, like, you know, the trees all feel a little sinister, and that was a benefit of doing the stop motion-y crafted treatment, is that the artist can think about, like, what is the personality of this area? What is the personality of this tree? Like, how do we make it feel alive and give it a tone that then creates the whole tone of the level?
No, I love what you said there, because what I was playing, we were playing and we're going through the story of what happened to an individual and a tree, which was very striking. I'm like, oh, this got dark really quick, but I like this. But it really showed the heart and the progression. What I really like to say about, I want to shout the team out, because you start to, from a narrative perspective, you start to see what's going on here. It's cool. And Hazel's this weaver, and she's kind of learning about this world and helping to cleanse this world at the same time, but understanding the pain that has gone through with it. So I wanted to shout the team there. And then also the music in conjunction with it really sets the tone, and it really puts you there, because there were times where I felt like I was building, like when you're climbing the tree of, you know, homie, I forgot his name now. Benji, yeah. And you see the rise and the build up in conjunction with the gameplay, in conjunction with the story. How do you marry all these things together?
Yeah. I mean, sorry. Oh.
No, go on ahead first. Go ahead first.
I think there's always like like all of the departments have to be totally in sync.
Yes.
And I think ideally it's really challenging, and I think it's a challenge a lot of studios have, but you should have each department, gameplay, art, narrative, audio, animation, like everyone's got to be totally aligned.
Yeah.
And the fact that we got to do this curated game means we got to push and pull like where different elements of that shine. So is this a narrative moment that gets to shine? Is this a a gameplay moment that gets to shine. You know, everything needs to be choreographed. And I mean, Chris, our audio director, is amazing, and he could talk to you for a really long time about all of the thought that went into the music and how the music reacts to Hazel, and maybe you can go on.
And one thing to point out is we do have sequences where songs are going to play in the game with lyrics.
Yes.
And they are integrated with the gameplay. So we got systems behind there that if you take your time, parts of the lyrics will finish. We got loops waiting, and then the other loops will kick in based on the player's action. You don't necessarily notice it if you're just following along, but we did make sure that it's not something that you can still do. Let's say platforming while gameplay without breaking necessarily the songs or the tempos and everything. So it does react to the paths. So
and I
how the
noticed
players
that
interact.
the audio gives you a bit of angst in certain aspects, but then I also, when it was devoid of audio and you just hear the tin of the roof or you hear the world, it feels and it sounds lived in.
Yes.
And was that your goal, to achieve a living world inside the game, absent of sound?
Yeah, I think so. Making the world feel alive was a goal for everyone. And Chris, our audio director, again, he'd be way better at talking about this, but he went to the Deep South, and the musicians he worked with were local musicians from the Deep South, and then he also spent a lot of time recording the sounds of the Deep South, like going to swamps, just recording cicadas, and so that all together with the animals and with everything, we definitely love celebrating the landscape as being almost like, I think I mentioned in the documentary, it's a character in and of itself. So having it feel alive, I mean, I think it's important. It's what makes the landscape, so the Deep South, so beautiful. Is all the life happening there. So.
Yeah, it's really cool to see it. Like I said, it all come together. And again, we're getting towards the finish line, right? Yes. April. And one thing that was really cool, again, this single player narrative experience, we played on Xbox Series X, right?
Yep.
Can we talk about the technical aspect as far as frames?
Yes.
Okay.
We target 60 FPS on Series X and S.
Thank you.
That's pretty much it.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And, people appreciate that. You'd be surprised. No, we want to shout you guys out. I mean, to see this journey, and again, a team from Canada, doing a game on the Deep South. But what we notice is just, again, the heart, the level of appreciation, level of research, the love, the detail,
the polish.
It's really outstanding. And then we were talking, early in terms of the stop motion and how much I really appreciated that implementation, which at first, I was a little worried about, I'll be honest. But the fact that, one, you kept it in there, and you also gave the option. You have tons of accessibility options. To say, hey, if you don't like it, you can turn that off, whatever. Yes. But I just love the approach of just having that accessibility, allow people to, experience the game in that way. Any final things you want to say as you get close to the finish line, April 8th? April 8th. Yep. Any final things you want to say to the realm of the Lord as far as South to Midnight and the teams of the hard work you guys put together?
Well, I'd say... No. Go for it. Go for it.
They got a lot to say.
No, I mean, I think we're just we're really proud of it, and I'm really appreciative of talking to you guys, and I think the team would love to be here, feeling the enthusiasm that you guys are showing, because we've all been working so hard at it. So the fact that you get to enjoy it, and some people are noticing things that we're really surprised they notice, and I think it just we work. You work so kind of isolated for so long, and then it's such a privilege to finally get to see people enjoy it. Yeah, so we're super proud and super excited.
Yeah, and we really had fun doing it.
Yeah.
So we really hope you enjoy playing it as much as we had fun working on it. Really.
Yeah.
Likewise, Lord King. Again, Compulsion Games.
Incredible.
In the realm, an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having
Lord
us.
Jasmine, Lady Whitney, absolute pleasure. Again, April 8th coming out. And again, we're super excited. We really want to appreciate you. Thank you for the time. In the realm of the Lords, Compulsion Games. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.